What's going on, guys? It's your buddy Max with LaRoe Photography. What I want to show you today is how to edit a photo in a dreamy, magical style. Basically, if you've seen my work, this is how I edit 90% of my images. So first you can see the image. Obviously, the model is very attractive. This was photographed in Ireland. She's very pretty. The dress is great. She was a big Lord of the Rings fan. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. So we were on the same page. So the idea for the shoot came out great, but now I want to show you how I edit it. So the first thing I do is you're going to open it in Photoshop and Camera Raw is going to come up. Here we are, guys. Camera Raw. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is let's look at the exposure. Yeah, I just really like Moody. So let's just bring that down. Just makes it more interesting. Okay, so then I'm going to do that. And then I always just like to take a quick peek at color grading. So what I do is, if you guys don't know how to use this, these are your highlights, these are your midtones, these are your shadows. So a lot of my images, I like to add a tiny bit of blue or like mint green to the highlights. So I'm just going to do a tiny bit of that, just knowing what we're going to do later. And then the other thing I want to do, I'm going to go into Color Mixer, and I want to just bring up the greens. I want the greens to be super, super rich. I'm known for my rich colors and my fantasy style, so I really want to have those nice, rich colors. The other thing you can see in this image is there is these red, I don't know if they're dead or whatever, but these ferns. And these ferns, I can bring up the color by raising the oranges in the color mixture and the reds. I'm going to bring down the yellows a little bit, because if I bring the yellows up too much, it highlights these areas that I don't necessarily want to highlight. And when the yellows are down a little bit, almost makes it more like a little bit desolate looking, kind of like Rohan in Lord of the Rings. Here we go for the nerds out there. Okay, so there we go. Coming up in Photoshop. Okay, so the first thing I do with every image is I'm just going to go to her skin. Let's see what we're working with. So she's fairly far away. We really don't need to like kill this with over retouching or anything, but we just want to make sure our model's skin is clean looking. There's not little bumps or anything too distracting. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay, fantastic. Good little start, good little baseline. Next thing I'm going to do, is there anything in this image that I'm just like, okay, that's distracting? Let's look. To me, this little white thing, I don't even know what that is. Who knows? To me, it's a tiny bit distracting. Let's get it out of there. Great. Also, this is a tiny bit distracting. Let's get this one out of here. Great. Okay. Looking a little better. Fantastic. So next thing I'm going to do is I want to go into color lookup. So you're going to you're going to click this button right here, adjustment layer. You're going to go to color lookup. And I've definitely used some of these, but my favorite ones to use is edgy amber. What this does is it takes this edgy, I mean, you can see it has this beautiful amber glow. And when they say edgy, it kind of makes it darker and richer. So this completely fits my style. I usually take the opacity down. Man, I love that. I mean, even just that looks so nice. I'll probably take it down a little bit off that, but that just added a lot of depth to the image. The next thing I'm going to do, let's make a new layer. Let's combine those together. Perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I want to feature the subject more. So there's two things that I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the exposure down around my like on the outside of my subject. Okay, just like this. And then using the mask tool, I'm going to bring my subject back out. see what we're working with. Ooh, yeah. Absolutely. There we go. Okay, and that's like the general thing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to like 20% opacity, zoom out, and make the area around her a little more visible as well. And then let's pull back a little bit more on this exposure. So now my exposure is about 30%. She's kind of popping out a little bit more. I want to take it down, make it look natural. Great, I like that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a gradient. So what a gradient does is a color transitions across, I use horizontal, transitions across the image, and you can really make a lot of, really just make the image more powerful. So I'm going to go to gradient map. I'm going to choose a black to white one. And then I am just going to play with it a little bit and see what we can come up with. Wow, that's nice. I really like that. Let's go back to the original, and I'm just going to add a few more. I'm just going to add a few more points. So I'm going to get rid of that one for now. I'm going to add a few more stops on the gradient map, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to go to same one, and then that's at 0. The white one is at 100. So let's add a stop at 25. It wasn't quite 25, but let's go to 25. Perfect. We're going from black to white, and let's move that to 25. Awesome. Let's add one at 50. We'll split it up into quarters. 50. Put that in there. 50. And then let's put one at 75. Fantastic. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to highlight her face and her arm a little more. So I'm going to move my 75 down a little bit. There, that brings out the sky a little bit. See, now her arm and her face are getting some action. I like that quite a bit. I mean, honestly, this image as black and white is really nice. This would definitely be the kind of image that I would potentially use as a black and white image. Awesome. Cool. So now what we like to do is we love how that looks. Now we're going to go to lumosity. So I'll show you the before and after. So before, it makes see how the image is a little more flat, and then we add this, it just adds a little more depth and contrast. I am going to take the opacity down a little bit. I want to keep some of that brown, but that's a really great place to start. The other thing that I'm going to do is I really follow my instincts when I'm editing. I could have done this sooner, but I want to crop it. I want it a little closer on her. I think I want her to just be, I think like off center, but just a little closer. So I'm going to make it about like that. And then let's bring this up as well. I just want to get a little closer. Love that. Love how that's looking. Next thing I'm going to do, I want to add a little bit of green. I want this image to have a little more green. That's too much. So we're going to go to color balance. I'm going to push my green slider just the tiniest bit. Okay, fantastic. I really like how this is looking. Okay, let's make another layer, and then we're going to add all those changes to that layer. The reason we're doing that is now I want to open it in Camera Raw. And this is kind of my second go through of Camera Raw, right? So I had that initial first one, and now I just want to narrow in a little bit more. So again, let's juice those greens up. Man, that makes it so nice. So let's go into luminance. So this is in Color Mixer. We're going to go to luminance. And actually, hue is another one I really like. So in the greens and the aquas and the yellows, we can tend to make things more green. So I love that. I love that. So just pushing, making the greens just really pop a little more. Make the yellows a little more green. There we go. That stands out a little bit more. Fantastic. And then saturation wise, I want to see if we take out yellow. Yeah. So I'm not going to go that far, but if you take out some yellow, it makes this image more cinematic and have more of a mood to it. So we're just going to take out some of the yellow. So it almost is a similar color palette to TV shows like Peaky Blinders, or maybe even Outlander, something like that. Fantastic. Let's bring up the reds a little bit. Red and green is always a great combo. Fantastic. Okay, now again, let's go to color grading. The highlights to me are so key. So let's get a little closer on her face and let's see what's going to help her, really her face and her arm, pop a little more. Okay, so also this is obviously affecting the sky. So we don't want to go too overboard. My cat's just saying hello. It's right here. Yeah, see, but I always like to let's look at other options too. I mean, blue is my go-to, but that could work. I could see yellow being cool. I think if we go too hard on the blue, the sky is distracting. Whereas the yellow-white has a little more to it. So let's stick in there. And then again, guys, remember how the color wheel works. Complementing colors are literally opposite each other from the color wheel. So if I add a bunch of blue, this is into the shadows now. That's too much. But just so you can kind of see, I'm going to slide back on that. Slide back, slide back, slide back. And I do like some of that blue. Then we're going to go to the midtones. I want to see, again, what happens if we add a little blue, or potentially what happens if we add some green. So that's way too much. Yeah, I think blue's going to be our color, maybe even like a purple blue. So add some of that into the midtones. Amazing. That is looking real good. Love that. And then the other thing I'm going to do, guys, is we kind of have a little bit of a desaturated look, but let's just bring that saturation up, see what that looks like. As you can tell, guys, I'm very much like, in my style of editing, I have some humility where I'm like, I'm also willing to take something away. If there's something I tried, I don't like it, let's get rid of it. We want to, ultimately, you're here to serve the image. You're not here to like impose your will on the image. So I do try to have some humility towards my edit. So let's just add up a little color. There you go. Okay, so here's what we have. Here's what we had before. And again, we just made it. Now it's just a little bit more striking. Yeah, it just pops up a little bit. I want to just combine the two a tiny bit. So we're just going to take a little bit of that opacity down on that top one. Combine it with the, nope. Yeah, I like that. That's really nice. Okay, let's take the opacity down a tiny bit on this one and then add it to the other one so we kind of split the difference. Okay, fantastic. So now what I'm going to do is let's go into exposure again. So I think I want the foreground in front of her to be a little darker. And then we're just going to bring some light back on her. We're going to basically erase that exposure that I just brought down. So here we go. And her hair is really beautiful, man. It's really nice. Okay, so I really singled her out when I got rid of that. So I'm just going to bring it back a little bit because I really do want it to look natural. You know, you don't want to have her pop out so much that it almost looks unnatural. So right now I really like how she's standing out, but I actually want the background and her to come together a little bit more. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to go back to color lookup edgy amber. And we're going to find something. Oh, wow. Wow. So this is why I like to look up stuff. So edgy amber and go to hue. So now it has a super cinematic look, extremely cinematic look. So I'm going to keep it here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and manually bring up the color of her blue dress, bring up the color of her hair, and then it's really going to pop. So let's jump in there. All right, so what I usually do is I go to color balance. So her dress is kind of like a light blue. So let's put in a little blue. Let's put in a little, and then we got to bring this above there we go. Okay, so now I'm going to invert it, and I'm going to color it back into the image. Bring that opacity up a little bit. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Color it back into the image. Fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's zoom out, see what that looks like. Oh, yeah. Love that. Let's take it down a little bit so it's not overly blue. That's perfect, kind of like a faded blue. And then let's bring some color back into her hair. So the way we're going to do that is color balance. Really push into some red, push into some yellow a little bit, invert, and then color it in. This is going to be too much, right? This color is going to be a little too much, but that's what I will adjust with opacity and such. So let's just get it in there first. Yeah, I have to say Ireland was hands down one of my favorite places to shoot. Like, just the natural landscape was just incredibly rugged and charming, and people there were very fun and really like to drink Guinness. That stereotype is 100% true. Like, extremely true. All right, great. Great, great, great. Okay, so it's too much, obviously. Now we take it down. Beautiful. Love that. And then, honestly, I'm probably going to, this was my hue. I want to take that down a little bit and see where we're at. There we go. Yeah, I just think, I love that hue, but I think it was a little too much. Really nice. I want to crop in again. Let's crop in again. Have a little bit of that smoke in the background. Kind of have her in the foreground like that. And then what we want to do is I want to jump in on exposure again. As you guys can see, I have a lot of layers. So we're going to go exposure again. Boom. Let's bring that exposure down. And now from the sky, we're going to brighten those and her a bit. And that is pretty much it. So this is going to help her stand out. Bring that exposure down a little bit. There we go. Now we're talking. Beautiful. And then what I'm going to do, let's bring that about, looks like about 42 is where we want to be. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more highlight on her face by using a different technique. And so that is solid color. So I'm going to go solid color. I'm going to use like a mintish, pretty much white, but it's got a tiny bit of mint in it. Okay, double click this one. Bring the slider over. This is pulling away from the highlights. And now do you see it's just on this subject. So what I'm probably going to do is erase this from the sky, but we just want to bring it. And so if you alt click, it splits them. And now it's just basically, I just want it on her. So then I'm going to, yeah, I really like that. Maybe even farther. Okay, that's great. So, okay, so now what we're going to do, see how that makes it really pop? Now we're going to do, bring the opacity up to maybe 80%, something like that, and we're just going to erase this guy. So now the focus is on her. You know what else we're going to do? We're going to take some of the highlights off this yellow behind her because she is the star. She is the star, not the image. Okay, now let's take that down. Take that down to taste. So to me, I really like that. That's pretty good for me. Really liking how this image looks. I want to crop one more time. Crop in a tiny bit more. So it's kind of like the river is leading to her. That's really, really nice. Okay, and then let's look at her face again. Let's see if there's anything, any more little distracting pieces we want to get rid of. Other than that, we are good to go. Let's see here. Ooh. Make sure I'm on my right layer. So I'm going to clone stamp right here. Clone stamp. This is just a little bit distracting. The other thing that I might do is, yeah, why not? Let's do it. Let's get rid of her bra strap. Again, it's a little thing, but it just makes the image, it just takes us out of the timelessness the tiniest bit. So obviously I selected an area right next to it, and we're just cloning this out of here. Cloning this out of here. Boom. And boom. The other thing we can do is pretty much got it, but let's just get a little color from here, and literally we're just going to paint right next to her shoulder. Like that. Let's see how that looks. Again, it might look a little blurry, but from a distance, nah, that was too much. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. You need to finish that job. We need to get that out of there. Okay. I always like to check before I do something, guys, because sometimes little details that you would think you want to get rid of actually add to it. So let's get the clone stamp again. Let's bring down the opacity. Let's go here. Let's line it up. Okay. Now we're going to go to patch tool. Put it by the dress. Boom. Boom. That is pretty freaking good. Let's get rid of this little puppy right here. Beautiful. Okay, let's see how that looks. That is nice. I like that. The only thing, man, I really like, the only thing I might do is let's just look at her face. Maybe we add something to the eyes. Honestly, just maybe a little dash of light in there. So I'm going to dodge, bring that down, and just add a little bit of light in there. There we go. You almost can't even see it. Just so those eyes pop a little more. Beautiful. And then let's also get rid of this little hair right here. Perfect. Good enough. There you go, guys. That's our image. Leave it on the screen for a second. If I was going to post this to my website or social media or something like that, I would probably go in and sharpen it. But that is our image right there, folks. I just really like Moody. So let's just bring that down. Just makes it more interesting.